Hello, check. Hello. Hello, check. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello, good morning. Hello.
यस मञ्चमा पाल्नु हुँदैछ र उहाँ हलभित्र प्रवेश गर्नुहुँदा कृपया तपाईहरु सबैले उठेर उहाँलाई आफ्नो श्रद्धाञ्जली दिन नमन टक्राउनुहोला।
Professor Lhakdor and the august audience today. Today, it's a joint venture of the Manjushree Center of Tibetan Culture and Dharma Chakra Committee Darjeeling. So as we welcome you, I think without much further ado, we start the program by requesting Venerable Geshe to light the butter lamp. Thank you. And at the same time, may I ask and request Venerable Pemba Shirela to come up, and also President of Dharma Chakra Committee, to offer Khada to Geshe today. A very humble request to the entire audience today. We would be very happy if you would kindly switch off your mobile phones or keep it in the silent or vibration mode. Thank you so much. And now, as you know, today's talk, Meaning of Human Life, we're about to start. So may I call upon Venerable Nawang Tenzingla, President of Manjushree Center of Tibetan Culture, to kindly come up and give us his welcome address, and at the same time give a very short introduction of Geshe Lhakdor. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great honor for me to introduce to you the Venerable Professor Geshe Lhakdor. I think for a lot of you, it is not necessary to introduce who is Geshe Lhakdor, because this is not his first time here in Darjeeling. Geshe Lhakdor was here 2 years ago at the invitation of Manjushree Center for Tibetan Culture and Dharma Chakra. And we had a great fortune to receive his teaching before. Geshe Lhakdor was the translator of His Holiness the Dalai Lama for several years, and he had traveled with His Holiness to many countries for conference, convocation and seminars. At present, Geshe Lhakdor is the director of Tibetan Library in Dharamsala, which is a famous international institution for many scholars, students, and research scholars. And presently, Geshe Lhakdor lives in Dharamsala. Geshe Lhakdor had translated many books into English, and for the last several years had been traveling to many countries, giving talks on Buddhist philosophy, meditation, and literature. So Geshe has been very active, and he is one of the very important ambassadors of, let's say, Buddhist culture in different countries. So it's a great honor for us to receive an eminent scholar, a very good teacher who gives teaching according to the needs and mentality of the people of the present time. And it's a great honor for us that he can talk in English language, which is because, as you know, Buddhism comes from Indian culture. Originally, the talk was given by Lord Buddha in Sanskrit. A lot of our literatures were translated from Sanskrit. And when you study Buddhism in Sanskrit or in Tibetan language, sometimes people find a little bit difficult. So when you receive the teaching in English in a very clear and candid manner, is a great use and very much beneficial for the audience. For the last 3-4 days, we have this great fortune. And I'm sure in future we will be able to invite Geshe Lhakdor many times, which I think it's necessary for lots of people here in Darjeeling. So without taking much time, I will request Geshe Lhakdor to start the teaching today, meaning of life, which is very relevant, which is a very practical, which is a very important teaching today. Thank you.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to express my deep appreciation for making me visit this beautiful place once again. I'm particularly happy to come to this place because I meet so many people who more or less look like me and think like me. And especially today, many of you have sacrificed your resting time, expecting something from me, so it's a big responsibility. At least I should therefore say thank you. I would like to say not only thank you, but I deeply appreciate your interest, not because you come to listen to me, but because your attendance shows you are interested in the inner values, in spirituality, in things which cannot probably be bought by money, name and fame. And it is perhaps because of this I am asked to speak on this seemingly understandable topic, but yet very important topic, the meaning of human life. His Holiness always says, meaning of human life is happiness. So in a way, my talk finishes here. meaning of human life is happiness. So when we say meaning of human life is happiness, what kind of happiness are we talking about? That's a very important point to think about. For understanding that, we need to know some simple facts and ask some questions with respect to oneself. It's very important to first of all know that I am a human being. When we talk about the meaning of human life, the first thing that you need to know is I am a human being. To say that I am a human being is not so difficult, but to understand that I am a human being. What are the characteristics of a human being? In Buddhism, we call this human life precious human life. In Christianity, human life is said to be the crown of creation. Human beings are said to be the crown of creation, of all the creations of the God. Human beings are seen as the crown. So what does those statements mean? At least from Buddhist perspective, when we say precious human life, what do you think is that preciousness that makes our life meaningful? So without complicating the situation, as I said earlier, when we say I am a human being, you need to at least identify the presence of your body and the presence of your mind. But there is something more than your body and mind, which is called I. And what is that I? It's definitely different from the body and mind. But what is it? Philosophers, thinkers, in all the various philosophical traditions, Western philosophical traditions, Indian philosophical traditions, many of these great thinkers try to pinpoint who is this I. And still more or less, in a way, it is a mystery. Although we repeatedly say I all the time, I am happy, I am not happy, I want to do this, I don't want to do this. My mind is happy, my mind is not happy. We keep on saying these things, but we really don't know. So in order to discover the purpose of human life, it is important to know these things. So what we at least know is this physical reality. What we at least know is that we are here on this earth. You can touch yourself and check, make sure that you're here. You're definitely here. So that makes us once again ask the question, what is the purpose of my being a human being? And what is the purpose of my visit on this planet? Or is there any purpose? If there is no purpose, then we should not be running. If we look at our life, and especially in today's life, everybody is busy. Everybody says, I am busy. When you say you are busy, it means you are running. When you run, you must be running for a purpose. So what is it for which you are running? For which you are becoming restless? Despite many of these labor-saving devices, facilities that has been provided by science and technology, perhaps there never was a time when people are so rushed and so busy as today. That is the paradox of human life. So it's important for us to pause and think, what should be my goal? What should I try to achieve? As I said in simple words, the purpose of your life is happiness. So when you say the purpose of my life is happiness, you are basically saying I want physical happiness and I also want mental happiness. But the reality is most of us spend most of our time to fulfill the physical needs and completely forget the need of the mind. That's the reason we are having so much difficulty, failures, lack of success. It is the nature of ordinary human being to pay attention to only what is visible and what is in front of their eye, and not to pay attention to what is to come after 5 years, what is to come after 10 years. And of course, people will find it very difficult to pay attention to a thing called future life, or future lives, as we say so much in Buddhism. Forget about paying attention to the future lives. We are not even good to pay attention to what will happen tomorrow, what will happen after 2 months, what kind of life I'm leading right now that will contribute towards what I'm going to experience in the coming days, months and years. So in order to understand all these important, complex issues, once again it's important to touch yourself and feel the reality. What are the features and characteristics that you have as a human being? As His Holiness said, I think we all agree that the purpose of human life is happiness. If that is so, we need to find out how far this is true. What is the method to get that happiness? So in order to prove that first point, to say that we want happiness, look at the reality of our human life, how we came into this world. What was the expectation and the message that the child who for the first time came and born into this world? As I always say in my many talks, that the first thing that the child does after the birth is crying, not laughing, not smiling. If immediately after the birth of the child, if the child smiles, people might be frightened. People might say, this must be a ghost, evil spirit, or must be a reincarnation, special reincarnation. So the reality is that the first thing that the child does is crying. What else the child can do? He came into a world where he knows nobody. There is a job which conveys a very important message. There is a job which says that immediately after the birth of the child looks up at the mother and says, have we met before? So the message of that job is that the child came into this world knowing nobody, speaking no language. Forget about speaking a second language, In today's life, even if you are unable to speak a second or third language, you say, oh, I know only this language. So it's a big hindrance and obstruction for getting a job and things like that. But in the case of this poor child, he doesn't have language. So what else he can do? The only language he knows is crying. So what I'm trying to say is, what do you think is the child is asking when he cries. Do you think the child is asking for a long teaching on Buddhism? I don't think so. Or any teaching on any religion, I don't think he is asking. What he is asking is mother's milk, which means he is asking for somebody's genuine affection and love. It is with this message the human life starts, asking for love and affection and care, unconditional love, unconditional care. Because what the love that is needed at that moment for the child is unconditional love. Because the child cannot give anything back when somebody loves their child. So he is expecting unconditional love. And that message clearly says that if you want to flourish in your human life, if you want to get that reliable, long-lasting peace and happiness, what we need to have and what is most important in our human life is this expression of unconditional love for everybody. Why do you think we need to express this unconditional love? We need to have this expression of unconditional love because by nature we all want happiness, do not want suffering. We all, without any distinction, we all want happiness, do not want suffering. Now in your individual case, you work tirelessly, you work very hard. The way you work to alleviate your suffering or to fulfill your purposes may not be very healthy, but still at least you work tirelessly for your personal happiness and well-being. Having seen this, if somebody asks you, I have seen that for the last many years you have been working tirelessly for yourself. Why you are working so hard for yourself? If somebody asks you this very pertinent question, you can give different questions, different answers. But if you give an answer like saying that I work so hard for myself because I am a professor, or I take care of myself so much because I am a very smart person, or very intelligent person, you can come with all sorts of answers like this. But these answers are not correct answers. So at the end of the day, the correct answer is I work very hard for myself because I want happiness, I don't want suffering. Of course, temporarily you can say I work very hard because I need to buy a building, I need to get married, I need to buy a new car, things like that. But if you keep on asking the question, why do you have to have a building? Why do you have a new car? Why do you have to get married? If you keep on asking the question, then at the end of the day, the answer will be, I think I'll get better happiness from these things. So once you see this reality, that you are working for yourself because of this inborn wish to have happiness and wish to shun suffering, any intelligent human being should thereby be able to realize the fact that just like yourself, not only human beings, but all sentient beings want happiness, do not want suffering. Therefore, it is reasonable that you extend your help towards others as well. Because those others also not only in need of happiness and wish to shun suffering, but they're also, interestingly, very closely related to you. Therefore, you need to take care of these other sentient beings. Not only that, when you take care of other sentient beings, you are not making any self-sacrifice. And in fact, that is the best way of getting the most long-lasting peace and happiness. From this perspective and angle, you'll be able to get some sense what is the long-lasting source of peace and happiness? By nature, it's human nature that when you see blood, you feel uneasy, you feel unhappy. When you see milk, you feel happy. When in the winter, leaves fall, everything becomes faded or blown out by the wind and so forth.